Today we're going to be using the impulse and momentum theorem to prove how velocity is constant no matter how far you are away or how less time it takes. So to show this process, we took a tennis ball and measured 3 lines away from a wall, and we threw the tennis ball at an average about the same force. There was a little human error in the thing, so the data might be a little bit off. But we found that within 3 tries, the velocity stayed pretty constant. And so I'm just going to show you some of the data that we took. So our first line that we used was about 3.4 meters away from the wall. Our second line was about 6.8 meters away. And our third line, we used this when we finished the first 2, we were like, well, might as well do one in the middle just as an extra example. So the third one is right in the middle, and that is 5.1 meters away. So once we measured our distance away from the wall, we then timed, we did an average of 5 tries. So we did 5 tries, and then our average time was what we used for the basic time to plug into the equation and find our velocity. So the first line's time was about 0.34 seconds until the ball hit from the release of the ball to the hitting of the wall. Our second line was about 0.75 seconds. And our third line was about 0.55 seconds. Once we had gotten all of our data, we decided it was time to plug it into the equation. And our equation we used for that, I'll just erase the data here and show you. We used velocity equals distance over time to figure out what the velocity was, obviously. And so for the first line, we just plugged in the data and found that 3.4 distance over 4 seconds, and we figured out that velocity equaled about 10 meters a second, and that would be our first line. Our second line, we did the same equation for all of these. So our second line was 6.8 meters for that too, over 0.75 seconds. And we found the velocity for this one was about 9.1 meters a second. And for our third line, we did the same thing, and once we plugged it in the equation, we got that the velocity was about 9.3 meters a second. So once we'd solved all our equations, we realized that the velocity really did stay about the same, no matter how far away you were or how close you were to the wall, and no matter how long the seconds took for the ball to get there. And the velocity was a little bit different, as you can see, than being the same exact, but it was relatively really close. There was a little bit of human error. You couldn't have exactly the same throw every single time, so the seconds might be a little bit different, and the throwing angle might be a little different. So overall, we proved that velocity was about the same.